Coming up on City Spotlight, it's all things Charleston. We will talk with newly appointed Mayor Brandon Combs and City Manager Scott Smith about the 20-acre Woods subdivision, the recent visit of the traveling Vietnam Wall to Charleston, and we will remember former Mayor Larry Rennels. That's next on City Spotlight. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com. I'd like to thank the new mayor of Charleston, Brandon Combs, for joining us on City Spotlight. Brandon, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And for those folks at home that may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
All right, well, as you said, my name is Brandon Combs, born and raised here in Charleston. I'm married to my wife, Ashley, who is also from Central Illinois, around the Effingham area. We have 3 children, Sophia, Bella, and Brantley. Like I said, I've lived here my whole life. The only time I didn't is when I moved to St. Louis to go to chiropractic school. And since I've been back here practicing for 8 years, and just been very involved off and on different areas of the community. Did the Booster Club, helped out with a couple other various clubs, and then served my time on the Chamber of Commerce as well. Went up through there and was the president of the chamber just a couple years ago. So, and then recently, 2 years ago, got elected to city council, and then here recently appointed to mayor.
What got you interested in getting involved with city government?
Oh, you know, a couple different things. First off, being from here, and I like to do the service. There has been, one way or the other, we looked it up the other day, since 1952, a Combs working for the city.
Oh, really?
My great-grandfather, Joe Combs, started with the city in 1952, and then my dad has been there for 35 years, and then a way of giving back to not only the town that I grew up in, and the town I plan on raising my kids in, you know, I just thought, well, we'll see if it's for me.
Maybe it's a family tradition,
yeah.
Whether or not it was intentional or not.
Yes.
You mentioned you were a member of the city council, and just recently you were appointed mayor, and that's because we lost Larry Rennels on June 25th. Larry actually had committed to be on the program, and very sudden. And was his health, and was he in pretty good shape?
Yeah, I mean, the last time I talked with Larry, I mean, it was completely, when I got the call that morning about it, I was completely shocked. It's not something that I was anticipating hearing from Scott at that early in the morning.
Shock to a lot of us, especially those of you that worked with him. And,
yes.
and in your time in Charleston, whether it was before you became a member of the city council and then on your time, what was it like to work with Larry Rennels?
Honestly, when I decided to run for city council, I reached out to a few people, and Larry was actually one of them. Being a business owner in town, I wanted to know, you know, what to get ready for as far as prepared on how it would affect your business. And Larry encouraged me and said, do not go, you know, even have to think about that. I mean, you're doing Charleston a service, and you know, that's the way. And he was really instrumental in when I ran, and he supported me. I mean, he was running for mayor, right, yet he was still out saying, you know, Brandon would be a great person for the job. So, you know, I really appreciated that. But then the 2 years that I got to work with Larry was just a blessing. Quite frankly, he's been on there a lot, 20-some years, but he was more than just the mayor, or more than just the city, you know, one of the 5 people on city council. He was like a friend or a mentor, and that was the thing, is I could call Larry. It didn't make a difference what time of the day it was. I could call him, and he'd answer his phone. If not, he'd get right back to me, and I mean, he was there. As a matter of fact, when all this had went down, I was sitting at the table talking with my wife, and you know, someone had sent me a message, and I'm like, I'll call Larry, and no, it wasn't, you know. So it was a pleasure to work with him. He'll be, you know, greatly missed, and I feel blessed to have been able to serve the last 2 years with him.
And you talked about him being available via phone. Tim Dover, the mayor of Mattoon, says it's the same scenario. He's always available, and to be able to talk with him.
Yep.
Can you explain, as far as city government works, for a brief period of time, you held the position of mayor pro temp. Is that a required position in city government?
Yes, it is. I believe it's city code that says that there has to be someone in case for the mayor's absence. Now, we think of being on vacation, you know, that's what it's for, or if I would happen to get sick and I couldn't make a meeting, there's someone there that can conduct the meeting and still run through the day-to-day.
Okay. You were quoted not too long after Larry's passing that the city of Charleston will continue to run as Larry had wished. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, Larry was from Charleston too. I mean, he had a business here. He raised his family here. I mean, you and I went to school with his son. You know, so basically what I meant by that is that it was in good hands when Larry was the mayor, and I plan on keeping, you know, Charleston going forward, going in the right direction, and just carrying on the way that Larry would have done if he was here, giving it his all as I will give it my all as well.
And we'll talk with Scott Smith, city manager, later in the program. And he's the city manager, you're the mayor, and so you guys work closely on a lot of the issues. What have the last couple of weeks been for you working with Scott and in this transition of the responsibilities of being a mayor?
Well, I was blessed, I guess, to know, being on for 2 years. Now, I didn't know I was going to get thrown into this, but I've already got to work with Scott. Now, obviously, it's going to be a lot closer, but Scott, as Larry is, he's on top of it. He was on vacation when Larry passed, and he would call me or email me or text me from vacation, making sure, hey, this. I mean, he was on top of it, and now, yeah, we get to work closer together, but it's not going to be I've worked with them before, so I know how it is, and I appreciate. And me being a business owner and not having a full-time position where you're up there at City Hall, 8 to 5 every day, that's going to become very important. And I'm glad that Scott is the way that he is. It's going to make it a lot easier on me, who can't be in there all hours of the day. And as far as responsibilities, I've got that question a lot. Well, you're taking on more. And, it is more, but at the same time, I was prepared. I mean, not prepared when it happened, but I sat down and I thought about it a lot. I mean, I did some praying. My wife, we had to sit there and talk. I talked with my pastor, okay, is this going to be the right thing? And then I knew it was, and that's why I decided to go. If they decide to appoint me, I'll fill the shoes. And you can relate to Larry Rennels because he's from Charleston, you're from Charleston. So what is the model of being a mayor of your hometown? Have you thought about the responsibilities of being the mayor from your hometown? Honestly, I haven't, and that's something that it's weird. People will say, when I'm out somewhere, people will say, "Hey, mayor," and it doesn't hit. Right. And I think the reason it doesn't hit, Ramin, is because I don't look at it as the mayor of Charleston. I look at it as, like you said, it's my hometown. Right. And I'm here to serve. Will every decision I make everyone happy? Probably not, and I know that. But the point is that I was willing to do this, and I don't see it as the title. I see it as a position to where I'm put here to serve the people of Charleston in the best way that I can. And as you mentioned, we're both from Charleston. I believe before we started talking, reminisced a little bit about playing Babe Ruth baseball. Yeah. Through your eyes, how has Charleston changed through the years? Oh boy, it's changed in some areas, and other areas I guess it hasn't. I just got an email week before last, how we're one of the top 5 safest cities in the United States, according to ADT. That's huge. So it was safe when I was a kid. I mean, I would ride our bikes up and down Lincoln, and we'd go all, right out through campus. The changes is that obviously you have the businesses that have come and went, and Lincoln doesn't look like it used to, but that's not a bad thing. And I feel that Charleston has evolved, and I see the university in Charleston, the city. It seemed like when I was younger, there was a university and then there was the city. And I feel like now it's become more of a community, like when I was here at homecoming. It is. More people are getting involved in Eastern stuff. More people are wearing Eastern apparel. When you didn't see that as much when we were younger.
So little time, so much to talk with you. We'll definitely have to have you back on. A couple more questions for
Okay.
you. You're obviously going to have plenty of meetings here with other leaders. There's a first-time president, EIU, Dr. Glassman. I know that Larry Rennels also had meetings, monthly meetings with Tim Gover of Mattoon. Are those? Have you had those yet, or are they
Yes,
coming up?
I meet with Dr. Glassman on Friday, and then I believe next Wednesday as well. And then I believe next Thursday it's with Mayor Gover.
Okay.
So, yes.
You got a very full schedule.
Yes, I do.
Want to ask you about the a recent thing that happened at the beginning of the month, the traveling Vietnam Wall. A pretty unique thing to happen to Charleston. Not something that comes through a town on a everyday occasion.
Yeah, no, and that was amazing. I don't know if you made it out there or not.
I filmed a little video of it once it was set. I
you?
didn't see the procession.
I watched the procession. There was probably 200 some bikes that came through. Emotional. My wife and kids were with me, and I mean, we were watching it, and like I said, it was just amazing. And then when you got to go out there and see that and the ceremony that they have, it was a great tribute. And it's awesome that Charleston and Coles County was able to have that here.
And last thing I want to ask you about is coming up is the Coles County Fair. I'm sure something that you attended many times. For a town such as Charleston, I guess a smaller community, a fair means quite a bit to a county fair means a lot to a town. And Charleston gets to hold it. And a lot of people come to town. What is the Coles County Fair? 160 some years it's been going on.
It isn't the longest.
Something like that, yeah.
I think it's the longest running fair in Illinois, I believe.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely amazing, and it's a big draw. And I mean, have kids. Hey, we can't wait for the fair to come, so they're excited.
I got a few I need to bring them to.
Yes.
My last question for you, Brandon, as we wrap up here, something you're looking forward to. I know you have a busy plate. You're trying to adjust to your new schedule and being the mayor of Charleston. Something you're looking forward to as this calendar year 2015 moves along.
Well, this is for some of the guys here at WEIU, Cardinals winning the World Series.
All right.
We're hoping anyway, right?
I think I know where that's going.
Yes.
Mayor of Charleston, Brandon Combs, thank you for being on City Spotlight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And now let's take a look at some of the upcoming activities going on in Charleston. And we're back on City Spotlight, and we're now joined by the City Manager of Charleston, Scott Smith. Thank you for coming back on City Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And we just looked at some of the events that are going on in Charleston, and something that recently transpired in Charleston was the traveling Vietnam Wall. And that's not something that comes through a town every day.
No, it is not. In fact, quite a processional from west of town. I want to say somewhere around 200 bikers and motorcade vehicles that brought the wall actually to the site over at the Coles County Fairgrounds the night it came into town. So it was a number of Facebook videos were posted. It was rather impressive that the community got behind it and was so supportive of that.
I didn't see the processional. I've seen pictures, but I did go get a little video of people out at the fairgrounds, and it was an amazing sight to see how big it was and how many people were out there just sketching names.
Absolutely, and frankly, I know that I happened to run by there a couple of times during the time that it was at the fairgrounds, and I don't believe I went by there one time where there wasn't somebody there. So,
and the uniqueness and how did Charleston manage to get such a thing?
There was a collaboration between our Red, White, and Blues Committee team and Diane Ratliff and Betty Coffrin, and those folks worked on it and had an opportunity to be a host for the wall, and so we seized on that opportunity, and again, I think it was a great thing for Charleston to have something like that.
And you just mentioned the Red, White, and Blue Days, which also just recently transpired.
Yes.
And the traveling wall kind of happened around that same time. How did attendance and how did the whole Red, White, and Blue Days go?
I think it went very, very well. Of course, we had a great turnout for Jody Messina's concert on Friday night. In fact, I was just getting back into Charleston that evening from a little vacation in Florida, and so as I was pulling through town, the concert was occurring, and Morton Park was packed. So I rolled the window down on the way through town, and I could hear the concert going, and there were a lot of cars parked in and around the businesses on Lincoln. So I know we had a really good turnout for that.
And the weather somehow managed to hold up for everybody.
Absolutely.
And coming up in a little bit here at the end of July is the Coles County Fair. As everyone knows, that's been a long-standing tradition in Charleston and Coles County. A lot of people come to Charleston, and as we talked before the show, it's something that people circle on their calendar, not just from Charleston, but from around the area.
Oh yeah, my kids are already talking about it. My daughter can't wait to go. So, and I know from past experience, both with my own class and I think my father's class reunion's coming up here in a few weeks, and it seems like a number of classes plan their reunions in and around the fair, and it's a popular destination for families that maybe lived here, grew up here, to return to Charleston to go to the Coles County Fair. So there's a lot of events scheduled that week, and there's a nice opportunity for people to go and see some of the entertainment, ride the carnival, certainly the livestock and some of the animals and things are great for the kids in the 4-H and all that. So we're looking forward to it, and it's always a popular place for a week here in late July, early August.
And I heard there's some nice horse racing as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And someone that would have probably enjoyed the upcoming Coles County Fair was Larry Rennels.
Yes.
Larry actually had committed to be on this program, and he unfortunately left us on June 25th. And Brandon Combs is now the mayor of Charleston, and we talked to him earlier in the program. Very sad, very, I think, unexpected. Was he in relatively pretty good health?
Absolutely, yeah. Very unexpected. So.
And what was the last time you talked or met with Larry on any matters?
Oddly enough, Larry and I met with President Glassman on the Wednesday. I actually left to go on vacation Wednesday afternoon with my 2 youngest daughters to Florida to visit my parents, and so we met with President Glassman at 9 o'clock. I think we met for maybe an hour and a half. Larry came back up to City Hall, and we joked around a little bit, and he had another appointment, and I left about 11:30 that day, and so that was my last official meeting with the mayor and our first meeting with President Glassman. So.
Well, you worked for the city of Charleston for quite some time, and you also worked alongside Larry and the various positions that he held up till his time as mayor. What was it like to work with Larry Rennels? Larry
was first class, very, very professional, led with integrity, very community oriented, was always putting others first. He was very actively involved in Charleston, not only in his efforts with Charleston City Council, but with his church, and volunteered on a number of organizations, spent quite a bit of time in various capacities on a variety of boards in Charleston over the years. And so Larry was all about community and putting community first, and his family, of course, talked to his family, and they speak very, very highly of their father and of Larry, and so it's been a tough couple of weeks for us.
And you probably answered the next question, but if you had to sum it all up, or first thing that comes to mind, the legacy of Larry Rennels, he's from Charleston, became the mayor of Charleston, what would you say his impact on this town is?
Well, again, I think Larry put community first and volunteered a tremendous amount of his time, dedicated again to his family, but to the community. And as I made my way through the funeral and talked with different individuals in Charleston, they keep coming back to his investment in his church and his family and putting Charleston first. Larry loved Charleston. He loved being on Charleston City Council, and had an opportunity to work with him for 16 years or better, and it was a loss. I'll be honest with you. And Larry and I worked very, very closely together. Obviously, the last couple of years in his tenure as mayor, but Larry, again, I've worked with a lot of council members over the years, both on the city council and with park boards, and Larry is one of the best, absolutely.
Thank you for those kind words, and Larry will be definitely missed. Moving forward, new mayor of Charleston is Brandon Combs, like Larry, also from Charleston. In the short few weeks working with Brandon as in the city manager mayor position role together, what are your impressions of Brandon?
Brandon has really stepped up and obviously taken on the role of mayor. We're fortunate that someone's willing to do that on council, and Brandon has agreed to do that and receive support from council. And we, of course, have been working very closely together the last couple of weeks to get him up to speed on all things mayor of Charleston, going over various projects that we had open that we were working with Mayor Rennels on, and just getting Brandon up to speed again on his duties and different committees and different activities and functions that maybe Larry had on the calendar, and make sure that Mayor Combs is available to get to those. And so again, the first couple of weeks has been more about just helping Brandon get the office set up and working with our team and getting connected to the email server and getting his phone up to speed, and just talking about some things that Larry and I had on our plate and what we were doing collectively together, and then again communicating with the various organizations in which Larry either had a position as an elected official on a particular committee, and again trying to bring Brandon up to speed on all those things. So we actually have some meetings scheduled with President Glassman and his staff in the next couple of weeks to kind of follow up on our meetings that Larry and I had scheduled, and then we have a monthly meeting with Mayor Matt Toon, and we're getting that scheduled. So again, a number of those meetings we're trying to get on the calendar, and of course Brandon's having to adjust his schedule and his life, of course, because he's a chiropractor here in the community and has a private office, and so having to make sure, making sure that he can meet his commitments both at the office but also at City Hall, and he's done a great job of trying to schedule while not affecting his personal business, obviously, making sure that he's available at City Hall. And we recognize that Larry was retired, and so Brandon may not be able to serve on as many of those committees maybe as Larry could, but that's okay. We'll make do, and certainly Brandon's going to do everything he can to try to make sure he's just as actively involved as Mayor Rennels was, and I'm confident he'll do that. Again, like you mentioned, Brandon's from Charleston, grew up here, was raised here, and so I think that's going to certainly help him in his duties as mayor, because he knows everyone. So I think that's going to be very, very beneficial.
And we talked to him earlier in the program, and he seems very much up to the challenge.
Yes.
Just our short couple minutes left with you, Scott. Obviously, part of what you do is working with the budget, and we talked back with you on the previous episode of City Spotlight talking about budgets. I want to ask you about the pools, and a lot of communities in Central Illinois are seeing a tough time with people going to their community pools because of all the rain we've been getting.
Yes.
Talk about Charleston's situation and how the lack of opportunities for people to be able to go to the pool.
Yeah, well, weather of course plays a role in any outdoor swimming complex, and having managed an outdoor swimming pool for the past 26, 27 years, I can assure you that I've worked through summers where we've had very little rain, and I've had work through summers much like this summer where it seems like it never stops raining. And oddly enough, in those extreme heat conditions where we saw very little rain, our attendance wasn't necessarily any worse or any better than it is, when it's raining. Those conditions certainly play havoc on the summer swimming pool. But yeah, this summer has been a tough one for Brian and Gina and their team in that we've been closed quite a few days, quite a few afternoons, early afternoon closings, just because of the weather pattern that we're experiencing. So, and that affects obviously past sales, not only this summer and attendance for this summer and revenue generated from the swimming pool, but also certainly next summer for sure, because if the pool's closed quite a bit, families then have to question whether or not it makes sense to buy a pass, and so that's kind of a challenge for us. But attendance is definitely suffering because of all the weather that we've had, and it sounds like we're going to get more here in the next couple of weeks. And so Brian and I just mentioned this morning that there's not much you can do about it. Mother Nature is Mother Nature, and so you just do what you can.
A lot of things, especially the outdoor events, are very much affected by the weather. A couple more things quickly. The roads in Charleston, any projects that have been completed or will be happening soon?
We just completed a major mill and overlay project on 4th Street and on Division Street, are probably the two sections of the streets that we completed here just recently that most people in the community are going to just see. We completed quite a bit of sidewalk improvement work along Lincoln Avenue, are continuing that even as we speak. And then the big road project that we're working on in-house with city crews is rebuilding the street between 4th Street and 6th Street. And so our crews will spend the next 6 to 8 weeks on that segment of roadway, building the new section of street there.
And recently, annexation of 20 Acre Woods Subdivision in Charleston happened. And first of all, where is that? And tell us a little bit about the project.
It's a 20-acre woods, is owned by Luxury Homes, Tim Parker and his family, and it's just south of the existing Luxury Homes facility, which is out here on the west side of Charleston. So 10 home sites. There was an existing home site there, and then a little outlot, I guess is what I would refer to it as. It's actually tucked in behind the construction company. So their goal is to get started on that, and I believe Tim is trying to obviously sell lots and homes in the development, and it's my understanding, I think he might even have a couple deals already done, and is trying to get started on that as we speak. So of course weather is playing a role in that project as well, but I believe they are trying to get construction underway as soon as possible, and trying to get some homes underway within the next 60 to 90 days.
Well, our time is up. Scott Smith, City Manager of Charleston, thank you for coming back on City Spotlight.
You are welcome.
A lot of great information and kind comments on Larry Rennels.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you to all of you for watching this latest edition of City Spotlight. We'll see you next time. City Spotlight is on YouTube. Past episodes can be viewed on East Central Illinois towns that have been featured on City Spotlight. Just search on YouTube, City Spotlight, with the show number and the name of the town. Listed on your screen are the recent episodes of City Spotlight. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com.